What's up, guys? Merry Christmas. Hope you're doing good if you celebrate Christmas, of course. And if you're just having a good start to the weekend, hope you're also doing well. Internationally, I think we're going into Christmas Eve. So, overseas, guys, it's already Christmas Eve. And so, everybody internationally, over in New Zealand, over in Asia, over in the West Pacific, Merry Christmas, or at least Christmas Eve to you going into Christmas Day. Hope you're safe. Have a good one. And just jumping on here to do a quick update and let you know what's been going on here around the planet in case you didn't catch it this morning. A mid-range 4 earthquake struck off the coast of Oregon, Northwest California, right at the tip of our red arrow. And that was followed by a 4.5, now downgraded to 4.0, at the Colorado-New Mexico border. That was then followed by a huge swarm that broke out here in western Oklahoma, topping out at mid-range 3. So, today, West Coast hit, then fracking ops hit at Colorado's border with New Mexico, then the fracking ops hit in Oklahoma. And it's a progression of earthquakes from the West Coast to the Midwest, exactly as we would expect it to occur. So, larger movement on the West Coast, moderate movement in the Midwest, then swarming. Also, internationally speaking, some spots we were looking at were hit. Let's just start over here next to our deep earthquake location. The triangular bend we talked about last night was hit by a 5.1 today, a shallower, larger earthquake. Then, over to the west, 6.0 activity, or 5.8 and a swarm of 5s. So a 5.8 plus a swarm of 4 or 5 other 5s takes us up above 6, actually. It takes us to like 6.2 energy-wise. As we go further west, northwest, another series of 5s broke out. So 5.0 down in Malaysia, going into Indonesia, and then a 5.0 up in Philippines. Same time that all hit, the coast of Honshu was hit by a 5.1, 5.2. So, we named the coast of Honshu last night to be on watch for additional movement larger than the 4.6, and now that has occurred. So, it seems like 5 and 5.1 is the number of the day. Take a look at it going across the area. Let's just get all the smaller earthquakes off there and just look at the 5s and greater. There they are. So, number of the day in the West Pacific. The whole West Pacific has moved from north of Japan up at the Kamchatka Peninsula and all the way down to our area just west of letter D, which stands for deep earthquake, by the way. And then we get our deep earthquake on there, and that's the culprit. That pushed the whole West Pacific and creeping over to the United States. The United States is about a magnitude and a half less than what I was looking for. Location spot on. Tip of our red arrow going down towards Eureka, California. Over in Europe, let's just get into this. We had warned for a mid-range 4 to upper 4, maybe even low 5, to strike in central Italy. And we mentioned the area of Slovakia over to the east and Montenegro. Well, Slovakia, Montenegro, Serbia, near Bosnia. Okay, that was the spot that was hit. And the magnitude is pretty much spot on. It's a 4.4. Okay, now, just over the past hour, less than an hour, last 30 minutes, a very deep, or fairly deep, 2.5 has struck down in the Tyrrhenian Sea. Now, each time we see deep earthquakes in the Tyrrhenian Sea, south of Rome, north of Sicily, this usually leads to movement up in central Italy, 1 to 2 magnitudes larger. Well, 1 magnitude larger, not that big of a deal, 3.5. 2 magnitude larger, 4.5. Let me get a sip of my coffee here, hold on. Good stuff. Drinking another pot of the coffee. This coffee I'm drinking is from UK. Sent to me by Sumo over in the UK. Saving my last 2 pots of it for the Christmas time. So thank you, thank you. I'm getting wired on that. But check it out. So mid-range 4 striking just to the east. And when I say just to the east, let me show you the other earthquake that struck today. So the 3.3, I'll highlight that here now. 3.3 struck earlier, and look literally right across the Aegean Sea. Okay, so or is the Aegean Sea, the Adriatic, right across the Adriatic, we go over here to where our 4.4 is. So 4.4 on one side, 3.3 on the other. All in all, it's a sign that Europe is moving. It's pretty obvious, right? I mean, don't have to really even say much about that. You can see mid-range 4 activity there, and that was expected. It's a few hundred miles off from the location we warned. I get bummed out. Janet Fullerlove had to remind me. She goes, well, you did also mention the area around Montenegro and Slovakia. And I said, oh, of course, yeah, I forgot about that. But I really was focusing on central Italy as our spot to be hit by the mid-range 4 to upper 4. And a mid-range to upper 4. I mean, you can see how close it is. Most earthquake forecasters would claim it because it's down here in South Europe. It's on the same latitude. It's striking within the same time frame, and it's the magnitude named. But I'm going to call it a miss because, again, I want to get it down to an area where the locals, and I'm talking down to the cities almost, would be the ones that would be warned, not just South Italy going over into, Eastern Europe. And I'll get there. I get there most of the time. And the mitigating factor on this, the reason I think it struck here, again, right here at the center of the map, the reason I think it struck there instead of over in Italy is because of our deep earthquakes on both sides. You see this other deep earthquake up here at the bend? Okay, the bend is right here on the eastern edge of the craton. It's a 3.0. Well, the deeper earthquake, as we know, can cause shallower earthquakes, multiples. So if we see that, then, of course, look right in between the two areas, and that's where our 4 struck. So the mitigating factor in on that, the thing that came in and kind of switched it, I think, is the deeper earthquake that hit subsequent to us issuing the warning. What else? What else is going on here? I think that's it pretty much for now. Central America, South America, you're being hit by a swarm of 4s. Now, the 4s are creeping up towards 5 at this point. I think a few of them were 5 that were downgrades. And let's just quickly take a look at today's activity. So you can see where our 2 arrows point here? We have 2 large arrows out here over the Pacific. They put 1 point to the north, 1 point to the south. And when you see this, okay, you see, obviously, they point to the areas where we have 2 clusters of earthquakes. This is not a coincidence. It is something that happens on a weekly basis, and it's based upon the deep movement that happens over here. So let me get that deep earthquake back on the map. Right? It's raised high off the globe, so you can really easily see it. And it's right on our letter D where the deep earthquakes occur. So pressure from that 4.4 pushed out over here to the east and caused 2 new clusters of earthquakes to the north and to the south, topping out in the mid-range to upper 4. Now this isn't going to stop there. We're actually going to see at least a magnitude larger because 4.4s can cause 5.4s to 6.4s. So if we're already clustering out in 4s in the next 48 hours, I would dare say you're going to see this creep up by a whole nother notch, go up to about 5.2, 5.3, maybe even 5.4. So this earthquake over here causing movement over here within a day's time. West coast of the U.S., your movement on the west coast caused movement in the Midwest within a few hours' time. Movement in Colorado, New Mexico caused movement in Oklahoma within a few hours' time. All in all, it's proof that pressure transfers across vast distances over a short period of time. So if you live along these lines of progression where the red arrows are, guys, please dust off your plans. Have a plan and be prepared just in case. And I'm not talking large stockpiles of food and water. I'm talking about looking around your house and knowing what to do when a noteworthy size earthquake strikes. Now, you do know what noteworthy means, right? Okay, noteworthy, when we talk about earthquakes, we know anything above a 4.5. We've seen 4.5s take down chimneys and knock facades off houses over here in Oklahoma at the start of this year. 4.5. 5.5 just killed 2 people down here in Ecuador a couple days ago. 6.5 is enough to cause devastating damage. 7.5, go ahead and ask the people in New Zealand how that was. Or the people over in Italy. So when you start getting up into the 7s, you're talking devastating damage. Now, right now, we're only looking for this to go up by 2 notches from the 4.4 up to 6.4. 6.4 is the highest potential I see off this deep earthquake little activity that we have down here. Now up to the northwest, we go a little bit larger. We go up to 6.9 potential. The reason we go up to 6.9 potential is because of a deep earthquake on the Izu Ridge, which is a 4.9. And as I've told you guys many times, I'll tell you once more, deep earthquakes lead to shallow earthquakes 1 to 2 magnitudes larger. So 1 magnitude larger than this 4.9, it's 5.9. 2 magnitudes larger is 6.9. And it would be striking between where the 4.9 is and our cluster of earthquakes in Japan. So it's a little triangular area here encompassing the letter D, basically. So south of Japan at Kyushu, that's near Okinawa, northeast of Taiwan, going over to the 4.9. Very small area considering the size of the planet. So as we go up into Japan, Japan was hit as expected today. It's not going to stop. There's incoming pressure that's going to hit again. So you already saw a 5.1 and a 4.6. Look what's going on down to your south right now. 5.8 and a cluster of 5s that equals about a 5.8 to 6, which means you have the potential to go up to, again, upper 5, 5.8, 5.9, striking in the same location within the next day to 2 days, which puts us right on Christmas to the day after Christmas, 25th and the 26th at the latest. So 24 to 48 hours from now, should hit to the north again because of a new cluster of earthquakes coming up to the north again because of the last deep earthquake. So this deep earthquake here has caused this movement today you see on the screen. It's going to the north, it's going to hit Japan again, it's going to go to the west and travel all the way out towards Europe. So by Christmas Day, we should be reporting to you, and Christmas Day my time, so it's the 23rd right now, Friday, and Christmas Day is of course on the 25th. So by Sunday, we should be reporting to you about excitement happening across Asia and the Middle East. At least going into the 5.0 range. Look at all the 5s over here. All the 5s here going to transfer over to the Mideast. Once they strike here, they'll expend some of their pressure, but then it'll go over to Europe, and we'll see a new round of upper 4s striking back down in the Mediterranean. Before it hits in Italy, you'll have a warning sign. The warning sign will be Greece and Turkey swarming it exponentially in a new set of 4s breaking out in Greece and Turkey. This is by Sunday, going into Monday. Okay, so we only have a few days to watch for this to happen. It's spreading out right now. There is one thing I do have to remind you. Watch out for new deep earthquakes. New deep earthquakes. Again, they're raised high off the globe, so they're easy to see. If you see new deep earthquakes, that can add pressure to an already serious situation. And the deep earthquakes lead to shallow, larger earthquakes. There's jackhammering pressure coming up on the underside of the plate from these deep earthquakes. And it causes a dome of pressure to come up and out from the core of the earth. Let me give you a good example here. There's some kind of disturbance happening down below the plates. And as the pressure comes up on the underside of the plate, it comes up in a 360-degree sphere in all directions. It's coming up out of a fluid, the magma that's very liquidy, liquid melt. It comes up and it hits an area called the asthenosphere, which is just a complex term for the melted magma down below the plate that's not nearly as liquid-like as the deeper mantle. So it's semi-melted. And when the pressure hits that, it goes outwards and upwards in a dome in all directions. Simple Newtonian physics. It's just going to travel up through this semi-melted, like ballistics gel. Think about the consistency of some kind of, but of course hotter. That pressure is transferring through that and it's spreading out. It's being diffused upwards and outwards. But as the pressure transfers upwards and outwards, there's an increase in magnitude. So if we have a deep 4.4, the pressure as it comes up from that liquid into the more rigid surfaces, the pressure increases, or is more focused maybe that's another better way of putting it. The pressure focuses and it becomes greater. So 10 to 100 times greater than the deep earthquake, the shallow earthquake then hits. So a 4.4 can cause a 5.4, which is 10 times greater, or a 6.4, which is 100 times greater in magnitude than the 4.4 that set it all off. So a deep earthquake causes a shallow, larger earthquake, and that's what's going on right now across the whole West Pacific. Because it doesn't just stop right next to the deep earthquake. The jackhammering motion up on the underside of the plate displaces the whole plate, not just the location next to it. So you see similar sized earthquakes like we see right here, fan out across 4,000 miles within a day's time. All related to that original deep earthquake that struck a couple days ago. So 2 days ago, the deep one hit. Now today, boom. And going into tomorrow, it's going to progress even further north and west. Okay? So that's what I got for you. Much love to everybody. I appreciate you being part of this. And I will be back on if anything else goes down. I'm going to the post office box bright and early tomorrow morning to check for last-minute packages and letters that may come in on Saturday. And on tomorrow night, Christmas Eve, I'm trying to decide, should I do it on Christmas Eve or should I do it on Christmas Day? I've got a whole stack of packages sent to me by viewers to the P.O. box that I was saving for this special time. Some of them are gift wrapped, others are marked for opening on the holiday. So I think probably what we'll do is to give everybody a chance to celebrate the holiday. We will wait until Christmas Day for my time Christmas Day. So after you guys all do all your stuff, and after you do all your presents, and after everybody, socializes with family or gets tired of Christmas, you can come home, crack a beer, or make some hot chocolate, put on your new sweater, and then we can do the unboxing here on Christmas Day afternoon into evening. Okay, so Christmas Day, the 25th, afternoon-ish, after, let's say, I do all my family stuff, then I will be on. And you can if you don't celebrate Christmas, you can do it vicariously through me here on YouTube. And if you're not into that, then you can throw things at the screen, yell, and leave nasty comments, which will never show up because of the language blocker on my chat room. Do whatever you want. Have a good day. Have a good evening, morning, afternoon, or night, Truman Show style. Drink your Makoko. And don't go to Fiji, whatever you do. Right now, if you go to Fiji, I guarantee you, Truman, if he went to Fiji, would be getting shaken up a little bit by these deep earthquakes that keep happening all around Fiji. Apparently, Fiji is the spot where the earthquakes want to go. I don't know. Okay. So, word up to my people. I'll be back in a little while. If you have a plan, be prepared. And if you don't have a plan, don't be scared. You should be prepared. So if you don't have an earthquake plan, you don't have to buy the stockpiles. You need to know what to do when the earthquake hits. Is your flat screen TV going to be falling off the top of your armoire? Is it going to be falling off the wall? Did you mount it right? Do you have things that are breakable that could fall off a shelf? Do you have glasses in your cabinet that could be flying out in a 5.0 earthquake, breaking across the floor? Do you have pets? Do you think your pets are going to stay put while an earthquake's happening, while there's broken glass on the floor? Do you really want to be dealing with that? Wouldn't it be better to spend $1 and put a latch on the cabinet? Right? Baby-proof your house for earthquakes. On the dollar store budget, so you don't have to spend a lot. That's my advice. The second thing you need to do is to know how to communicate with people. You know, the first thing that people want to do after an earthquake is communicate that they're either hurt or that they're okay. So communications is something that you may want to think about. That when phone lines are down but text messaging still works, you may want to think about that. You may want to think about an internet connection. You may want to think about these things ahead of time. That's what preparing is. And you won't be scared when it hits. When it hits, that's when you'll be like, oh, I'm glad I got my bag here by the door I can grab on the way out. It's got my extra set of keys and some money in there in case I need to go somewhere. So, again, and that's only in the case of a house collapse. You know, most structures don't collapse unless we're talking about above mid-range 5 to 6.0. Once you get above 6, there is potential for things to fall, even in nicely constructed buildings. But most of the earthquakes we're talking about here are in the 5 range right now. So we're talking about enough to, crack a wall or knock things off your shelves. But it's a fine line, because once you get beyond 5.5, we just had 2 people die in a 5.5 down in Ecuador. One lady from a heart attack from the scariness of the earthquake, another from a building collapse. So you go above 5 and you start getting into stone buildings and poorly constructed buildings falling. It's bad news. So I'm not trying to scare anybody at Christmas, just want you to be prepared, okay? I'll be here if anything else goes down, and of course enjoy the music. I'm trying to keep it real. and we'll just keep switching that up. And that's all I got for you. See you guys in a little while. Oh, and if you're new here, please subscribe to my channel. Trying to grow it. I was hoping to be at 170,000 by Christmas. And as you can see on the screen, we are at 178,525. So I'm 8,525 above where I wanted to be for this point. And I want to thank everybody who subscribed. It means a lot on YouTube. So it doesn't really, the number of subscribers doesn't pay me anything. It just looks better. And so the more people that I have, the more people pay attention. It's just the way it goes on YouTube, unfortunately. All right, so if you're new here, please subscribe. I'll be back in a little while.